This is Mrs. Hudgens. I was going to recap with you uh, about Newton's laws and what we were studying prior to spring break and kind of what you should be looking at this week. So, if you'll remember, before spring break, we did two different experiments. Your first experiment, we had a ramp and we continued to add mass to the ramp, and we collected data on how far it would travel. Right before spring break, that we didn't get a finish was our balloon jet lab. And with that one, we also added mass to it and kept our variables the same. So, question is, after mass was added, how did the data compare between these experiments and what could have been the reason for this? So, let's look at the data. So on the first one was the ramp that's on the left side. And you'll notice that on the experiment that I did, that as I continued to add washers, the distance the car traveled increased. On our balloon jet lab, you probably noticed, most of you were able to collect a lot of this data, that as we added mass, we decreased in the distance that it traveled. So, a question then that I would have is, why would we have a difference like this? Now, some of you, if you had cars that were having difficulties in traveling, and I know there were some of you that did, your data looked different for the ramp lab. So, if your car was not working efficiently, and there were problems, then you were not getting the same kind of results. Yours decreased, just like the balloon jet lab. So, one thing that we could talk about is our force was staying the same, but when we uh, added mass to the ramp, and we had that pull of gravity, because there was more mass, it should have given the car more momentum. And so that allowed it to travel further. It gave it some more kinetic energy because of that ramp. When we did the balloon jet, you were using the same amount of force with the balloon, but there was nothing helping to increase that momentum. So the mass added to that, we needed more force in order for that to move forward. So again, here, all three of Newton's laws are in play. Inertia, obviously, we got something to move when we added a force to it. Uh, Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration. So in our gravity example, the gravity helped to pull it down and increase the amount of force because of the mass, and it let it accelerate more. And in the balloon jet, we had that same amount of force, so that added mass decreased the acceleration. We needed more force to get it to move. And then obviously Newton's third law, action and reaction forces, were at play here. So our objectives, and part of this we did last week, but we're finishing that up, was planning an investigation to provide evidence that the change in an object's motion depends on the sum of the forces on the objects and the mass of the object. And so we did that with our experiment. You were doing your CER and your graphs in science over the ramps this week, and so you will be giving the conclusion statement to this, okay, of how do we know that. And then also this week, apply Newton's third law to the motion of two colliding objects. How does the collision affect the object? So I'm going to show you an example of this. So here we have these objects colliding. I have a video that I've posted on here, the very top video that you can watch, and it shows the effects of that. And also, there were several of you, when you did your GIF project, you showed objects that were colliding. One in particular, Eli's, had the two football players smashing into each other, and we've talked about that. Obviously, with the person with more mass is going to affect the smaller one more, and as you can see, with from the demonstration here, as that they crash into each other, the energy is going to transfer to that smaller car and push it back more. Okay, but there is a video that shows quite a few different experiments on here, and I'm posting it to my website for you to see. I hope you are having a great week. And remember that since our assignments are reduced, make sure that the things that you are doing, you are learning with a purpose. Okay, you want to get the most out of this so that you are more educated, you're more prepared for science when you go to high school. Have a great day.